Hello, beautiful friends. It's Rachel Archelaus, and today I just thought it would be fun to share some of my most memorable experiences as a medium. So if you don't know, I spent my early 20s working part-time as a professional medium. So I spoke to people's spirit guides and their past or loved ones and pets. And it was really interesting. I did something called Psychic Saturdays at a local bookstore. And it was just basically, I would be there for a set number of hours. Anybody could walk in and get a reading. And I would not know ahead of time what they wanted. So it could be a medium reading, a love life reading, whatever it is. I would just be there at the ready and give them a reading. By far, my absolute favorite types of readings to give were about spirit guides. For some reason, I don't know why, but people's spirit guides tend to love me. And maybe it's because I can see them or hear them, but they would just appear in all these different configurations to like send a specific message. I've had people come up to me, in the past few years actually and say, my spirit guide told me to watch your videos or to contact you. I just have always had such an affinity for spirit guides. And there was only one time where a spirit guide would not speak to me. I remember it very clearly. The person was sitting right in front of me and asking me to ask their spirit guide a question. The energy to me felt male, and he was up floating in the corner, and he would not say a word to me, not even say, I won't talk to you, or no. It was clear that he thought it was in everyone's best interest for him not to participate. So I don't judge, I'm just a messenger when I'm doing these kinds of things. So I just relayed that to the client, and that was that. For the medium readings, which is why we're all here, man, it's so interesting when people want to talk to their loved ones and they don't feel satisfied doing that themselves. Maybe they've gotten some messages or had some dreams, but they want to come to someone else to get more information. That's where I came in. And so they already wanted something that they didn't feel like they could have. And so sometimes these loved ones would do outrageous things to try to get their attention. I know for me that whenever I'm at a wake or a funeral or something, normally the deceased person is like jumping up and down and like dancing just to try to let people know that they're okay. So that's the first thing. A lot of people came in with their personality really enhanced. I remember this one group of sisters came in, 3 women, and their mom came in with them, which was usually the case. The person would usually come in with them. And all I could feel and see were these big blue jeans that like came up to here. And the only thing I could say to them was mom jeans. Like they were the light acid wash, big ass blue jeans. And they're like, oh my God, that's my mom. So that was really fun, and then we had a great conversation with the mom. I remember the first time a child came through, it was really emotional for everybody because I wasn't expecting it. The child was fine, obviously, but it goes against what we think of as okay to see a child spirit. And the vision I got was so amazing. It was this child on a wooded driveway. So the driveway was there, long, dark asphalt, and then there were trees lining the whole way. And he showed me who he was on the driveway and that he was a little boy, probably 8 or so. I'm not very good with ages, but that's kind of what it seemed like. And then he showed me moving picture frames in the house. And so I asked her about that, and I said, has he been moving your picture frames? And this was his mom. She said yes. She was very emotional at that point and kind of described to me what he'd been doing in more detail. And we did have a greater conversation about everything with him. And she was just really excited and happy to hear from him and hear that he was okay. That's really all people want. They just want to know that their loved one's okay. And of course they are. All the time, 100%. Anyone who dies is okay. There was one time where I had this resistance and I blocked myself from giving a reading. It was really interesting. I was sitting at my little spot and the woman walked in, and of course there was this mom like sitting on the daughter's head. So the daughter walked in, the mom is sitting here like cross-legged on the daughter's head, and I was like, oh, mom. But for some reason, when she sat down and she said, I really want to talk to my mother, I froze up. There was nothing that could come out of my mouth. I couldn't make connection. I couldn't allow myself to say anything. It's possible that the daughter was just in so much need or desperation that there wasn't anything I could give her. Like, she was so resistant that I couldn't break that for her. But that's the only time I've ever not connected. There was a time, though, it was interesting, that I had trouble finding someone. I used to work with this lady who I was very open with, and so she used to ask me questions all the time. And one time we were trying to contact her grandmother, and I remember I was at my desk, and it almost felt like I was having to change television stations. First I went to this person on Hawaii, and it obviously wasn't her grandmother, and then I switched to this other person, and then this other person. We eventually got there, but it was a really strange thing. I don't have any answer for that. I don't think it's happened ever. And then there was another time that I went to her mother's house and did a walk around and kind of explained where there were certain energies. And that was interesting because, and this is typical as well, if I was scheduled to go somewhere, which I did quite often, go to people's houses and kind of look around for them, someone, the spirit, would come to me before I would get to the house. So in that case, it was her uncle that came to my house before I even got in the car to go there. And he was just chatting me up and talking about all kinds of things. And he came with me to the house, and that was interesting. I definitely had to learn about boundaries at that job, because spirits have no boundaries, right? It's all vibrational. So if I was open to them being around just because I didn't know any better, they could come. So that was an interesting one. He's a really nice guy, but you don't necessarily want to entertain all the time. One of my favorite things to do was to go to antique stores and to just feel the different energies and kind of connect with the people who owned different things. That's actually how I used to teach mediumship. One of the ways anyway, we'd kind of do a field trip to an antique store and tune into some energy. Let me see, is there anything else that sticks out as a memorable experience? One that really stood out to me was this man showed up for a woman, probably his granddaughter or something, and I could feel that he was missing a leg and he was a little bit heavier. And something came up about fire. And then a couple days later, the woman got back to me saying that her grandfather, or something like that, you know, the man that we were speaking to, had gotten locked in an elevator and died in a fire. And in the war, he had lost his leg. So, you know, these kinds of things, it's always fun to get that validation on my part instead of just giving it to other people. It was interesting to know that. I guess she went home and looked up this guy and then found stuff in the paper about him. Always, always interesting. Man, being a psychic, a medium, whatever you want to call it, is a fascinating job. It was very enjoyable and very interesting. Never a dull moment. Especially loved the spirit guide stuff. But I definitely learned a lot about everything, about what happens when we die and what people really want to know for themselves and through their loved ones. And I am very excited to say that the Intuitive Art Academy is now offering readings, and we can connect with loved ones through intuitive art. Intuitive art can show you anything. It's really to get clarity on any subject that you like. So you can let one of our certified intuitive artists provide you clarity through an intuitive art drawing, decoding, and session. It's just like going to a psychic. You can ask them anything you want. We can connect with your loved ones through intuitive art, but also business and career and relationships and love life and all kinds of stuff. And guess what? I am on the schedule. At least in the beginning, we have certified intuitive artists all over the world, and me. When you book your reading, you'll be hooked up with one of us depending on what time you select, and you could get a reading with me. And I'm really looking forward to it. I really love doing these. Thanks so much for listening. If you want another psychic story time, let me know what you want to hear about. I have so many stories that I'm just dying to share, and this has been really fun. So have a wonderful day, super love, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.